We Killed Our Gods by Zealous Adil Sir, 264. Humanity almost had its shit together. War, famine, another fucking plague. A fucking class war. The elites almost won that one. Eat the rich really has a different meaning when there's no food. Of course, that led to another plague. This one was an easily avoidable prion, but I'm trailing. After all of that, most of us shuffled to the larger cities. Food wasn't a problem anymore, as most of the farms were automated anyway, and there wasn't anywhere near the demand there once was. Not that it would have mattered. Everyone had a completely different attitude those days. There were so many fewer of us now. We were all in it together. Once we collectively got over the shock of possibly being the last generation of humans, things started leveling out. We had to give up some freedoms. Central government didn't really work anymore. The cities had to be locked down. The wilderness took over much of the world, but animals weren't the only reason travel was basically banned. Tribes of brigands, cannibals, people that were banished. It was like a Mad Max movie out there. If you needed to go to another city, the only options were armored trains or multi-rotors. You had to jump through hoops to get a permit to ride one of those. Still, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't as dystopian as the cyberpunk novels of yesterday predicted it would be. The leaders, in their concrete towers, had more important things to do than be Big Brother. Keeping the infrastructure functioning was their primary concern. Crime wasn't even that big of a deal. Keeping a chicken in every pot does wonders for that. They didn't even bother restricting weapons anymore. Anyone could download plans for a railgun off of GitHub and have one printed at Kinko's in less than 20 minutes. Not that any of us needed to be armed. Nobody wanted to hurt anyone, and if you did, you were banished. Straight up kicked out into the cold outside. None of us wanted that. By then, most of us were born inside the walls. We wouldn't make it a day without coffee or music. We weren't necessarily soft, we just had zero survival skills. Our parents did everything they could to raise us that way. We shouldn't face the hardships they did. We were the new boomers, so of course, we were caught completely fucking off guard. The first wave was another plague, or at least it would have been if it hit earlier. It wasn't an issue, at all. We had a vaccine in days, a cure a few weeks after that. Progress moved rapidly in those days, and the semi-isolationist nature of the city-states begat a ridiculously developed communication matrix. The next wave was literal locusts. They ascended on the farms in giant swarms, seemingly from nowhere. We lost a few in the initial attack, but drones took them out rather quickly. The sudden influx of extra protein made wonderful fertilizer. We still didn't know what was behind it at the time. We just thought it was environmental factors we didn't quite understand. The wars did a lot of damage to the ecosystem. Nothing was overly shocking. Same with the third wave. Another attack on the crops, this time fungal. It grew rapidly, and we did lose quite a bit that time. But of course the human spirit perseveres. A scale insect, modified to reach adulthood in days, was all we needed. We simply carpet-bombed the farms with them and let them go to work. We had nematodes on backup in case the insects got out of hand once the fungus was eradicated, but it was unnecessary. They just left for the wilderness or died. It did cause some balance issues as the wasps started preferring them to spiders, but the crows in their infinite wisdom took care of the spiders. Nature, it seemed, was on our side this time. We even started cultivating the fungus in controlled conditions, as it was a pretty damn good source of protein. It had a flavor similar to corn smut, and dried. It made a protein powder you could add to anything. Once again, we didn't know it was an attack. Seemed like a gift. That's when they came. At first, we called them aliens. The first craft touched down in Chicago, in the middle of the winter. It launched an EMP attack. After that, we don't know what it did. Once the city went silent, there were no reports. Satellites couldn't get anything through the clouds either. Rescue crews reported the buildings were untouched, but everyone was simply dead. Autopsies didn't show anything concrete. Their hearts just stopped. It looked like some type of gas attack, but we weren't completely sure. The so-called UFO was an empty shell, organic in nature. There was absolutely nothing inside of it. The ring of cold, dead eyes surrounding it suggested it was some type of bivalve. After a comprehensive investigation, it was bagged, encased in nanotube cement, and tossed into the ocean as it was beginning to rot. We didn't want some new type of bacteria developing. We didn't know who sent it or entirely what their intentions were. We had to look at it from all angles. The second craft was tracked over China. Trajectory suggested arrival over Beijing or maybe Hong Kong. We never gave it the chance. CERN cooked up an antimatter bomb that absolutely destroyed the thing in orbit without any of the fallout our parents had to deal with. It seemed to work for a while. The next two were taken out the exact same way. It was concerning. So far, every attack we thwarted generated a different type. They were suddenly just trying the same shit over and over now. We were never able to plot where the crafts came from. Projections from AI all showed the moon, but thorough investigation came up with nothing. It was still a dead rock, and the few bases we built there decades ago were just as dead. No portals to hell were found. Not that we really expected there to be any. Doom has just never left human meme culture, so of course, that was the joke the media ran with. 3 more were taken out over the next month. By then, we had armed drones patrolling the entire Earth-Moon sector. They always just appeared behind the moon. They stopped once we had every inch of the rock under complete surveillance. Whoever it was, they didn't want us to know how they were getting here. The one that hit Genoa came from the ocean this time, and it never released an EMP. No, this time it somehow leapt from the water and crashed into the Santa Maria di Castello, barely missing the tower. Fucking arseholes. We had been able to preserve that damn thing for over 1,000 years. And then it opened. Out of it poured things. Black, slimy, tentacled things that moved incredibly fast. Anyone they touched was eviscerated. Anyone they couldn't reach simply dropped dead when the things screeched. Even recordings of the sound caused embolism. But the people fought back. These things were organic, and tungsten bolts, bullets, and even arrows could kill them. Once they died, they shriveled into a black ichor that seeped into the ground, making it all but impossible to study them. Video of the attack showed that they never retreated and spoke a broken form of Aramaic. Very little of it could be translated, other than simple words like die and give up. They really only tried one more ocean attack. We saw it coming and just evacuated Mogadishu. A basic nuke did the trick. We didn't want to lose any more lives. After that, it was decreed that all port cities be walled off at the ocean side and have at least a partial dome installed. Submarine drones were dispatched. One other craft was found and quickly destroyed. It went pretty quiet for most of a year after that. We never once considered that it was over. We started calling them demons. The videos out of Italy showed them to be rather Lovecraftian, although they did not seem to actually come from space. We were unable to discern their biology, unfortunately, so demon kind of stuck. Small religious groups did cause some chaos, warning of end times. It really did seem like that was what it was, to be honest, what with the initial plagues and whatnot. These people were quickly silenced, however. It wasn't popular with most of us, but the leaders were all but transparent. It had to be done. We all had to be on the same side. Humanity was under attack, after all. Luckily, they were all placed into stasis, and in some cities, you could even visit your frozen zealot kin. The Vatican decided to end its silence after the meteor was spotted outside the lunar orbit. Of course, preparations were made to send it off course. The leadership didn't even seem fazed by it. Pope Clement XVI spoke out in a rabid display of defiance, never seen before or since. My dearest humanity, it certainly does seem that forces outside of our personal veil are trying to extinguish our light. I do not know if God or Lucifer is behind this. But what I do know is this: if they are, then we are being punished for the acts of our ancestors, and we should not stand for it. There is not a person on earth today that is guilty of biblical transgressions. Socially and ideologically, we as a species are closer to God's law than at any time in history. So I say to you, my fellow humans, that we should fight back. Until Jesus himself walks into my chambers and tells me otherwise, we will not roll over. We will not accept defeat. This was a rally cry from the Pope himself. It didn't matter what religion you followed. It didn't matter if you didn't follow any. We were one people, one nation, one world. We worried a bit a day later when the meteor violated known physics and hooked back towards us. Obviously, we simply nuked the bastard. Some of the fallout did hit Earth, but the bulk of it landed in the ocean. The memes that week were epic. We had space covered, we had the ocean covered, we even had antimatter-capable kamikaze drones dispatched to volcanoes and fissures just in case. We were fucking prepared. So of course, they simply appeared. We called them angels. They would appear inside the walls, glimmering, beautiful figures. Human in shape, but with no features, only armed with a type of rod that emitted plasma. Typically arriving in multiples of 3, they would kill anyone they could get close to. They also destroyed the tracks our trains ran on, making escape almost impossible. Nothing seemed able to kill them. We slowly lost cities to them. Very slowly. 12 angels per city, slowly killing everyone. Nothing worked. We were able to get some multi-rotors in and evacuate large portions of the populace, but it seemed like they were eventually going to win. Once again, the Pope stepped up. Released on his personal 3chan account was a very sloppily scanned PDF, a chapter from the Third Key of Solomon on how to destroy angels. It was simple. Take a nail, half a cubit long, recite an incantation over a bowl of goat's blood and monoclinic sulfur, and dip the nail into it. At first, we just stuck the nails to a rod, or a hockey stick if you lived in Quebec, and stabbed them with it. They would instantly dissolve into the same black goo the Leviathans did. Later, we started using railguns to shoot the nails from a safer distance. Anti-angel drones were quickly developed and sent to every city on Earth. They still patrol to this day and are a welcomed sight. You children know them as the drones carrying the flag of the French resistance. And now, we are pretty much up to speed. The ones we call archangels appeared after all that. Around 50 meters tall and humanoid in appearance, they emit a strange white light that melts anything in its path. Hilariously, the Japanese did have a bit of success dispatching the things with giant robots, but they were such a waste of resources it was quickly abandoned. They could still be killed with a couple of well-placed ruiners, what we began calling the nails that kill angels. So of course, we just came up with ruiner-laden cluster missiles to kill them before they reached a city. And here we are. Archangels still appear occasionally, and we kill them. Every single time. There have been over 100 of them at this point. It's all automated now. A satellite or surveillance drone spots one, and the missile is dispatched. We've even managed to obtain samples of the ichor they become in death. Now the world's top scientists and religious scholars are working together en masse to prepare for whatever the next wave will be. If the clouds part and God himself reaches down to smite us, we will find a way to kill him. He was never prepared to handle our spirit. It's something he can never have. The end. Like and subscribe for more content.